I'm a writer. I'm not an author.
What's the difference?
Writers write their own books. I'm not going to mention any other names, but there are many people that have writers. Not how I do it. I grew up in the 60s. I'm too much of an idealist to do it any other way. Authenticity is everything, I think. Yeah, I mean, you can say anything you want about me, but you can't say I'm not authentic. I'm Philly, and I'm authentic.
If you're interested in starting your own podcast, join me in Podcast Your Passion. I'll take you through my 8-week course where I'll mentor you to build a world-class podcast. I'm only taking on a small group of people who want to share their passion through broadcasting, where I'll have you up on iTunes and YouTube within weeks so you can podcast your passion. Click on the link below for more information. I am so excited to bring this episode to you today. It is one of my mentors, Jeffrey Gitomer, and boy is he a character. Jeffrey is best known for writing the Little Red Book of Selling, which he's helped millions of salespeople all around the world. Jeffrey is a 15-time author. He is currently in a project with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, writing a book called Truthful Living. It's some of the earliest writings of Napoleon Hill that they just stumbled upon, and they collaborated with Jeffrey and put together this beautiful piece of art. The book will be released in a couple of days on October 30th. We sit down for a great conversation. We talk about his upbringing. We talk about what gave him his grit to become a successful salesperson, and then taking those tips and putting them into writings. Jeffrey's writings have helped millions of salespeople around the world, so I encourage you to sit back, relax, as I welcome Jeffrey Gitomer. This is American Real. I am Roger Brooks. My guest today is Jeffrey Gitomer, author, professional speaker, and business trainer. You are known as the King of Sales, where you write and lecture internationally on the subject of sales, customer loyalty, and personal development. You have written 13 books, including New York Times bestsellers, The Sales Bible, and The Little Gold Book of Yes. Your most successful title is The Little Red Book of Selling, which has sold more than 5 million copies worldwide and has been translated into 14 languages. The book is the reason I am here today.
Cool.
And Jeffrey Gitomer, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you so much. So first off, I was telling Doug, we pull in last night late, about 10:30, and I'm thinking,
You lose all your hair.
well, I lost all my hair.
Right.
And I'm thinking, where are we going to eat? You know, it's too late. We get down there, the bustle of downtown Charlotte is incredible. I just want to ask you about that. What is the vibe here?
It started out, when I moved here, you couldn't find a restaurant open unless it was a Greek diner. I think there were 2 that were open 24 hours. And all of a sudden, over the course of the last, I'm going to say 15 years, the city woke up. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, several other Fortune 500 companies, the Chamber of Commerce is very active, and people started to move downtown. They opened the culinary school. You don't have to give them a plug, but They opened that school, and that opened up uptown, which is what they call it. And all of a sudden, a bunch of kids came. Well, hell, if there's a bunch of kids, there needs to be a bunch of places for them to eat. There's no shopping in uptown Charlotte.
Okay.
Only restaurants and bars and hotels and office buildings. That's it.
But it was
If
awesome.
you want to
There
buy a
was
shirt,
music
you got to go
playing.
to the mall. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But the town is rocking. It has grown from 500,000 to 1 million in the time that I've been here.
That's incredible. What is it, 20 years? Almost 20 years?
30.
Wow, 30 years.
Yeah, but
So-
don't.
And I know when we've talked in the past, you would always joke with me saying, why are you still up north? There is something called the South. Hello.
Yeah, but the North has something that we don't have, winter. And so when you move down south, you lose the snow, you lose the crap of slipping and sliding on whatever highway you live near. And I love to visit it, I love to see it, but I ain't living there anymore.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I'm getting really close.
Yeah.
I'm this close.
And I'm a Philly boy, so don't think of me as a Southerner. I spent my first 40 years in parts of the country, but Midwest a little bit. But I'm Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Temple University, South Jersey, Atlantic City. I'm Philly.
And let's talk about that.
Okay.
I just interviewed a guy a couple weeks ago, Steve Martorano. I don't know if you know of him. He has 4 restaurants: Atlantic City, Vegas, a couple down in Florida. Philly guy. Tell us about Jeffrey's upbringing, and what was life like for you growing up?
Well, the good news is that I'm smart by inheritance. My mom and dad were smart. My mom and dad were business people, not entrepreneurs. There's a difference, and I can explain it very easily. My great-grandfather was a businessman when he came over on the boat from Russia. My grandfather was a businessman. My father was a businessman because there were no entrepreneurs at that time. And I define a businessman whose family was in business, who's 3rd generation. I'm 4th generation business person in the United States. An entrepreneur is somebody whose mom was a school teacher, whose dad worked for General Electric for 30 years, and he bought a franchise, or he started a business. He's a 1st generation business person who is out in the world trying to take his 40-hour-a-week job, get rid of it, and turn it into an 80-hour-a-week job but he's having a good time at it. This is what he wants to do, pursue the American dream as an entrepreneur. He's a first-time business person. That's how I view it.
And what was it like growing up?
I went into Philadelphia as often as I possibly could, living in South Jersey. I attended Temple University. My parents stressed education, the knowledge of how to deal with money. They stressed humor, and we had a family that stuck together. It was a fun time. I was very privileged. We didn't fly any place because there were hardly any airplanes. I think our only big-time family vacation was Florida. We drove down to Florida. But I went to summer camp every year. So I learned how to compete against other people without my parents. You know, I was in a bunk with 10 guys, but it was a whole camp, so I was in my bunk. By the end of the summer, I loved 5 of them, I hated 5 of them, and I'd been in a fight with every one of them. But you learn how to play sports, you learn how to compete, and you learn how to do it without running home because you skinned your knee and go to your mom.
Right, crying to your mom.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. And then you go to Germany.
Well, I dropped out of Temple because I was not a real good student. I mean, I owned a couple of racehorses. I actually sold football pools for my bookie. I thought the statute of limitations is up on that one. I sold some homework in school. I took kids to school. I was a business person in school, and I got tired of it. So I said to my parents, I said, listen, I'm going to drop out of college and go to Europe for a year. They agreed. No, that was my wildest, haired-brained idea, and they agreed to it. I said, look, I have my own money. I had a few $1,000 saved up, and I said, just buy me the airline ticket, and I'm good. And it was like $600, you know.
And you went by yourself?
Went by myself, yeah. And when I got there, I was going to study French. But they were so rude. a lot of people think French people don't like Americans. It's not true. French people don't like anybody. And so we're just like part of the deal. And I decided to go to Germany to study German. I had a great time in Berlin when I was there. It's a wonderful city. The wall was up. It was real political. It was real, volatile. So that's where I went. And I studied German at the Goethe Institute. I'm not fluent, but I'm good.
What an education that must have been in itself.
It was at the time of the Vietnam War.
Okay, late 60s.
Yeah, it gave me a 2S for another year. I missed the draft because of the lottery numbers, and that was just by happenstance chance. And I decided to. When I got to Europe, this is pretty interesting. When I got to Europe, I knew everything. After I'd been there for a week, I realized, oh, I don't know anything, and I decided that I was going to learn something new every day. So I began traveling. I traveled to every country, kept a travel log. For example, I studied the Habsburgs when I got to Vienna because I didn't know who they were because I cheated off of Louis Poland when I was in college in modern European history. And I read the Diary of Anne Frank on Anne Frank's doorstep.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty powerful for me. And so I got my comeuppance, and I was alone and happy, and just traveled on my own, met friends that are, when I was in school in Berlin, I had two friends, one from Turkey, one from Sweden, and one of them follows me on Instagram.
Today. That's great.
50 years later.
That's incredible.
Is that cool or what?
That's really cool.
Yeah, so
that's really cool.
That's what happens when you make friends overseas.
Yeah.
They pretty much stay your friends. So I developed when I was there something called wanderlust. I want to go to that new city all the time. So I've been going to Paris for 50 years. Wow. My 9-year-old daughter's been to Paris as many times as she is old. We'll go again at Christmas time, or we'll go again in the summer and hang out and go to museums, take a side trip to go to another country on a train. And if you want to teach your kids about the world, you show them the world. That's the easiest way to do it.
Well, you'll have to give me some tips. I'm going for the first time in October with my wife.
You'll have my whole list.
Yeah, that's awesome. So look, we would not be sitting here today if it wasn't for the little Red Book of Selling.
Oh, cool.
It was about 10 years ago. My brother-in-law, Ray, handed me the book. I was working for him at the time, and he says, you have to check this out. Read the book. I still have the book he gave me right here.
Cool.
And I've always had the desire to be a writer, but I didn't have the confidence to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But your book gave me the confidence not only to step up my game in sales, but to do what I love, and that is to begin to write.
Cool.
So I've been writing ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess, in some ways, was that your plan from the beginning, is to touch people
I had no
like
plan.
me?
I had no plan. I've written about it. Some things are just not goals. I never made a plan to go to Europe. It just happened. One day I just said, I'm pissed off. I don't want to do what I'm doing. That looks like more fun to me. I'm going to try that. Some goals are met, some goals are not met. But when I began to sell in the 70s, I realized that I loved it. And so I just made a mental note that I'm going to be the best salesperson ever. When I began to write, I go, wow, this is really cool. So I made a game plan to be the best business writer ever. And then I began to speak, and like, oh my. So I just made a plan to be the best speaker ever. And that was, I didn't make the goal until after I loved it. And my philosophy is, if you don't love what you do, then get the hell out. But part of my philosophy is I strive to be my best at what I love to do. And that sets the standard for me and the foundation for what it is that I'm seeking to build upon. And you mentioned at the outset that I have written 13 books, but 2 are in the hopper right now, and they'll
15.
yeah, they'll be soon.
Right, right. No, and I have a question on that a little later. But so you wanted to be the best in sales, you wanted
Yep.
to be the best writer, and you wanted to be the best speaker.
Yep.
And you did all
Because
three.
that's what I also want to be the best dad and the best
Sure,
granddad and
sure.
the best friend.
Point being, whatever you do it to your fullest.
Yeah, exactly.
And you expect that from others.
I've had several partners along the way, wives or girlfriends or whatever. I'm blessed right now with Jen Gluckow, who is partner, love Jen. We will be married hopefully soon, and then have a party in Paris next summer. And I try my best to be my best for her. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I try my best to be my best for her. And if you have best in mind, second best in sales would be first loser. So I always have best in mind. I always wake up in the morning, try to be my best, do my best, look my best. You know, I shaved for you this morning.
Why, thank you.
It's a pleasure. But the challenge is that sometimes people wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and that's a choice. Totally. I'm not having a good day. Tough shit.
Yep.
Have a better day.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about positive attitude. I know that's something high priority.
Yeah,
that
very
you-
high
that you
priority
preach.
for me. I learned it from Napoleon Hill. I learned it from Earl Nightingale.
Nightingale.
Yeah, I learned it as I was studying sales when I first started, that everyone seemed to be very positive about things, and it was at a time when I was in a bad marriage. The twins were just born. I was broke and I had no direction. So I had to hang my hat on something, because when you're in New Jersey and you're trying to become positive, it's very difficult when a lot of shit around you is negative. So I thought about it. I wrote about it. I just wrote essays to myself about how I'm going to wake up in the morning and feel great, and maybe I'll put all those in a book of letters to myself.
That's awesome.
But I just started out feeling that it was about me, that if I couldn't be my best, I could never be my best for somebody else.
And who turned you on to Earl Nightingale and Napoleon Hill?
I had my own business. I manufactured beanbag chairs in Camden, New Jersey, and sold them in New York. Okay. My comeuppance in sales was in New York City.
Okay.
Cold calling, for whatever. And I had the gift of gab, but I didn't really understand the science of selling. And one day, these guys came to me with this MLM plan, which was called multi-level marketing, and it was borderline legal, illegal in those days. And I joined some troop of guys that was following Glenn W. Turner, Dare to Be Great, and we formed an office near where I lived, and every day we took a lesson in selling and positive attitude from 8 in the morning until noon, every day for 1 year. And that was my knowledge base, my indoctrination, whatever you want to call it.
Foundation, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Wow.
We watched a movie called Challenge to America by Glenn Turner every day. That started our day. And we read one chapter of Napoleon Hill every day. Well, it only has 15 chapters. So 10 times during the course of the year, I read that book. And it became second nature to me, that I began to think and do things in a positive way. And now you can't shake it from me. You can do anything to me.
It's part of your fiber.
Yeah.
And you turned me on to Earl Nightingale.
Cool.
Honest to God, I've listened to it 500 times in
Yeah,
10 years.
Strangest Secret.
I still do it.
Yeah, best
I'll
thing.
think of it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and every time this is the most amazing thing about Earl Nightingale, and for your audience, let me share with them, go to YouTube, look up Earl Nightingale, and all of the recordings of his series called Direct Line are there. Just click on play on any one of them, and you become mesmerized in how brilliant this guy really was.
Yeah.
But he recorded The Strangest Secret in the late 50s, and it became the benchmark of you become what you think about. He says we become what we think about. I think he should have said you become what you think about. His widow agrees with me. But the bottom line was I took it personally and took it to heart and live. I know where I'm going. I know what I want to do. I'm a self-directed human being, knowing that if I'm the best I can be for me, which is a kind of a selfish thing, then I know I can be the best for my kids, my spouse, my grandkids, and my customer base, my team members, my family. I'm good.
And I hear a lot of people talk about this today, and I think it's true. I mean, we're kind of indoctrinated that, be good to others and they'll be good to you. But I think it's the reverse. Be good to yourself.
Yeah.
And then if you serve yourself first, just like you said,
yeah,
then we could serve others.
Well, there's two keys. Number one, you're a self-believer. And then number two, you're a service person. You serve with respect. Not as many do in this country right now, serving with disdain. Like they have to do it and like you're doing them a favor. Please take my money. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And sorry, we're closed. Sorry, we're closed is I don't want your money.
And why is that? Is it maturity? Is it?
I don't know. There's no answer for that.
Yeah.
I preach service. I met a guy one time who spoke about retail sales, and he was a representative of Nordstrom.
Okay.
And I recounted a story to him about I was visiting a friend of mine in the hospital, and I went to the mall to get him something, a tie I think I was going to get. It was a number of years ago. And Nordstrom opened at 12, and I parked outside the store, just right outside the store, and waited because it was 11:30. A guy comes out of Nordstrom and says, "Are you waiting to come in the store?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, come on in, I'll get you what you want." Okay. And I went in, I bought the thing, I left at 11:45. It wasn't even open yet. And he said, "I know what you're talking about because I work for Nordstrom. That's part of our culture. By the way, I used to work for Sears, and if someone would have done that at Sears, he would have been fired."
Yeah, that's the difference.
Okay, so where is Sears today?
Gone.
You can't even find them.
Right.
They were the benchmark.
Yeah.
Literally the benchmark of catalog sales and brick and mortar sales for 75 years.
Right. But it's that service, that customer
Gone.
service, that they didn't have.
Gone.
Yeah. And Nordstrom is thriving.
They're thriving to a degree. I think they fight Amazon a little bit. I'm not really sure. And I think that they fight Macy's a little bit, and they fight Walmart a little bit. So it's a struggle for retail right now.
It definitely is a struggle, but I have noticed no matter what Nordstrom I'm in,
yeah,
the service is consistent.
They kiss your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about what inspired you to write your first book.
Well, I read something in the newspaper that was bogus about sales. I went to the Charlotte Observer and I complained for the fact that you wrote this stuff, it's not right. Thousands of people will read this and follow bad advice, and you're stupid enough to print it. So they came over to my place and did the same kind of thing on me. My phone rang off the hook. I couldn't believe that one little article in the paper on a Business Monday could generate that much response. And I thought, I'm a better writer than the guy that wrote this article about me. I should do my own. And I went to the Observer and they turned me down. And I went to the Business Journal and they accepted me. And I wrote every Friday for 15 years a column in the paper that I was paid for, but that totally launched my writing career because I knew at the end of the first column, if I wrote 100 of them, I'd have a book. So I never wrote a book per se. I wrote a column and that turned into a book because I would write on various subjects and that would make it complete. So the Sales Bible, first book printed in 1994, still in print today, 20 some odd years later, is part of that legacy, but it's a collection of 750-word columns that I wrote that I put in categories and published the book. And it was widely accepted, widely read, sold hundreds of thousands of copies, printed in a bunch of languages, still in print from the same, from Harper, which used to be William Morrow, and the softbound is John Wiley. And they print it every year, they sell a ton of them every year, and I'm a happy guy.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, my first book will always be in print. I mean, always. And so will the Little Red Book. I mean, it's just...
How does it make you feel?
Number one, humbled. Number two, very proud. And number three, fortunate, because it still brings me business. I mean, literally yesterday, 2 major connections that I'm trying to make, one to sponsor my public events, and one because we're switching from our current email supplier to a new one. The new guy thinks the Little Red Book is a Bible. The other CEO from the company that we want to sponsor my public events tells me that his entire career was he read every one of my books. Now, it's a strategic advantage when something like that happens, but it's also, I mean, just think of how good you feel when it's amazing. I'm just telling you, it's amazing. And it's also inspiration to do the next book.
Right.
So I'll write till I'm dead. I mean, there is no way that I'm going to stop writing, quote, and retire. I already have all the books sort of outlined of what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. I have a bunch of titles in mind that I'm going to play with.
I love it. I love it. You once wrote, "Writing leads to wealth."
Right.
Now, I think that has 2 meanings.
Correct.
Right? That's how I interpret it. Of course, monetary wealth, but
right.
More than that, just what you talked about.
Right, a wealth of knowledge.
Right, and
I
satisfaction.
have what's known as a body of work. And that body of work serves me to be able to, I don't have to publish everything. I can just save certain things and, I'm writing this book on the unbreakable laws of selling. Why don't I take this piece, take this piece, take this piece? I'll write half of it, and now I don't type anymore, I dictate.
Okay.
I use Dragon for Mac.
Okay.
And I have done my last 3 books now on Dragon for Mac. The 2 that are coming out now, the Napoleon Hill book, I had to write, it's a book called Truthful Living. It's about Napoleon Hill's first writings from 1917, 20 years before Think and Grow Rich. But I had to write the introduction and how to implement it, and then I annotated it along the way. All of that is voice to text. The 21.5 Unbreakable Laws of Selling, all voice to text. And the Sales Manifesto, which will come out the first of the year, all voice to text, because it works.
Give us an idea. Where are you? Are you in your house? Are you wherever you are? You're dictating.
Well, we're in our studio.
Right. So when are you doing this? Do you set time aside? Is it when you?
I have a routine. I wake up in the morning, and I do one of 3 things. I read, I write, or I prepare. Sometimes all 3. Sometimes 2 of 3. But those are the 3 prime focus things that I do every day for 25 years. That causes me to think and create. You do those 5 things in the morning for 25 years, you end up with anything you want. Most people wake up and watch something stupid. What's the weather going to be? Dude, look out the fucking window. You can figure out what the weather's going to be. Or they'll watch something about who got beat up in a parking lot or what bomb got dropped. That's not me. While they're doing that, I'm making money.
Yeah.
Or earning money.
And Earl Nightingale said it best, all you have to do is create.
Yeah.
That lives inside my mind all the time. And it sounds like that's what you were just saying. Is
exactly.
Who has time?
If
we
you
don't have time for TV.
I watch football every once in a while,
sure.
but I don't know what's on Thursday night at 9 o'clock. I've never watched Lost or Sopranos or The Bachelor. I don't watch that shit. It's a waste of my time. They try to suck you in. I'm not a sucker.
Yeah.
I have way more important things to do, and at my age, I'm out of time. I don't have time to crap around.
And doesn't that just lead you to, someone talked about the backward clock, right? You just think about every moment is precious, every day, every hour.
Time is my friend and my enemy.
Yeah, all of us.
Interesting in Truthful Living, Napoleon Hill refers to time as the most important thing in the world.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
So you're a young guy, you're figuring out your sales, you're doing this business, bringing the things to New York, you're reading Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's true.
That's Jeffrey.
Here's what happened. I'm a member of the National Speakers Association, and Charlie Tremendous Jones was my mentor, like a dad. And he had a great relationship with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. He introduced me to Don Green, who runs the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I offered them I said, look, you don't know me, but I got my positive attitude from Napoleon Hill. I'd love to give you something so that it becomes valuable for you. So we create the newsletter for the Napoleon Hill Institute for the past almost 15 years. Napoleon Hill yesterday and today for free. I just give it to the Institute every year. And we've built them a list of probably like 50,000 or something. I don't know what the total mailing list is, but it's pretty good. And it makes me feel good. Well, when they came across the documents of the first writings of Napoleon Hill, they called me. I think they feel like they don't know how to repay me for what I'm doing. And Don Green, they came here to our home and said, hey, we have these, here's 3 volumes. They're copies that we made and we bound them of Napoleon Hill's first writings. Would you like to annotate them? I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. It's like an honor. So here are the first writings of Napoleon Hill. Now think about 20 years before Think and Grow Rich, this guy was teaching classes on selling and advertising. And at the end of each class, he wrote a lesson, and after the lesson, visit. All on personal development, all about and once I saw that, I'm like, oh, take away the sales stuff and the advertising stuff, it's blocking this whole beginning of Napoleon Hill's strategies and philosophies. And it was like a golden gem. I just finished reading it to record the book. It's the most difficult thing I've ever done. It took me twice as long as it normally does because it's not written in my language.
Right, so long.
First of all, it wasn't written by me. And second of all, the lexicon was way different 100 years ago. But this is 100 years old. Okay, so just take this. The time has come for you to succeed, but you cannot do it without finishing what you start. Hello. Now, come on. To be happy and prosperous, you must cultivate self-confidence, enthusiasm, love for humanity, and the ability to stick to everything, start until you finish. Come on. It's 100 years old. Is it valid?
Absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly. Character is built slowly, step by step. Your every thought and every action go into it. Napoleon Hill. And the gems that are in this book are timeless gems. Ambition is a contagious thing, Napoleon Hill. And you read these things.
I get the goosebumps. Because
oh yeah, exactly. So he's talking about, and some of these things are pretty cool because they're entire lessons. The 7 success rules. I wonder what they are. Well, let's see if there's anything brand new. First, you must believe in yourself. Whoop. Cultivate self-confidence. Second, you must cultivate enthusiasm. Third, be honest. Fourth, practice self-denial. In other words, don't fly to the moth light bulb. Do what's best for you for the long term, even though you make a small sacrifice at the moment. Fifth is you must use your own willpower. Sixth is you must be unselfish. And seventh is you must concentrate in all your efforts, in all your work. In other words, nose to the grindstone.
Yep. Go all in.
So that's 100 years ago. Anybody can take this formula, turn it into money. Anybody. So I'm annotating this book and reaffirming my belief in the process at the same time. And Jennifer, my partner, did some of the editing. She goes, "Look at this! Look at this! Look!" She's texting me full paragraphs of what she's.
It's almost unreal.
Exactly. But one of the ending pieces is success may be had by those who are willing to pay the price. And the price is eternal vigilance in the development of self-confidence, enthusiasm, working with the chief aim, performing more service than you're paid for, and concentration. With these qualities well developed, you will be sure to succeed. Napoleon Hill. Now, this book is called Truthful Living. It's being published by Amazon.com, the new publisher of the world. And they have an entire enterprise. This is not like a self-published thing. Amazon has an enterprise just like Random House does, just like Simon & Schuster. And they are counting on this book to be a major book for them.
Wow.
I mean, they're putting their weight behind it. And I'm like, whoa, cool.
Is this the first time you've worked with them on a project?
Amazon? Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah. And I'm
That's
hoping
exciting.
that they'll be my publisher forever because their professionalism exceeds their ability to market.
When do you expect that to come out?
October 30th.
The day before my birthday. Great.
Oh, cool. Well, happy Halloween.
Thank you. Wow. Jeffrey, I still have I'm just thinking about when you were young.
Yeah.
And, it's like Earl Nightingale for me, or, it's like,
Yeah.
You, or, whatever.
Exactly.
It's
So
coming back full circle for you.
So here's the deal. This one is, let's see what we got here. Oh, this one's signed. It's yours.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Okay, so there's only 1,000 of these. When they do what's called a galley copy, typically it's printed on crap paper and it looks crappy, and the publisher sends it out to various people and says, please. I said, no. I said, number one, you send me all the books, I will sign them. Number two, I will write a letter to each one of the people that are going to promote this, whoever it is at Forbes or, whatever television station or whatever, and I'll sign the letter. Because I want them to feel like this is a personal project, not just something that's coming from a PR department in a.
Yeah.
And
that's
working.
Your customer loyalty.
It's working. I'm telling you, it's working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very excited. Thank you for that. I
You're
cannot
welcome.
wait to read that.
You're more than welcome.
Confidence. Can it be taught or learned?
Yeah. You go to New York City and you make sales. That will give you more confidence than anything on the planet. Selling breeds confidence because when you make a sale, I don't care if it's a glass of lemonade, you feel good. The earlier a kid opens up a lemonade stand, the faster they're going to build self-confidence. Self-confidence can be built in other ways. For example, trying a food that you don't think you like, but you like it. Going up an elevator if you're afraid of elevators. Going to a place you've never been before and go and check it off your goal list. But nothing breeds more confidence than making a sale.
And it's pushing through that fear.
Yeah.
There's two things I want to ask you about: the power of asking questions and the power of listening. I know you've talked about both of those quite a bit.
Yeah.
Can you expand?
Which one do you want me to start with?
Well, let's start with questions. The
Okay.
power of asking questions.
Most of the time, people will go into a sales presentation and talk.
Right. Too much of this.
That person is an aggressive salesperson. An assertive salesperson walks into a sales call and asks questions because they're looking for the customer to give them why they want to buy. They're looking for a motive. You can't get a motive if you're talking. I don't want to be manipulated. I don't want to be pushed. I just want to be asked a question. I want to go to the ice cream store and the Person behind the counter goes, what flavors do you want? They don't say, do you want the butter pecan? It's our best flavor. We sell an awful lot of it. People really like it. No, I want chocolate. Oh.
Same concept.
Think about it.
Yeah.
And it's the same in anything that you do. Your car's broken. The guy says, looks like your tire. No, it's my door. Oh, door, I was going to say that next. Like, dude. So what's wrong with the car? That's what I want to know. Well, when you go into a person's place of business, number one, you should have already done your research, right? Prepare.
Yes.
And you should kind of know what they're about, maybe by talking to a couple of their customers, maybe by going to their establishment and asking some questions, and then you meet with the decision maker and you kind of know what's going on, but you say, I was looking at your website and there's a couple of things that I don't quite understand. Can you help me? Sure. Well, I printed out a page. Tell me what this means. Sure. Now I've taken a genuine interest in them. They're going to tell me everything, and I'm going to win.
And the fact of the matter is, what, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 people aren't doing that, would you
Correct.
say?
Let me refine that just so the audience or whoever watches this can have a real answer. Aggressive salespeople tell, assertive salespeople ask. Aggressive salespeople go for the sale. Assertive salespeople go for the customer. And that subtle difference is the difference between being number one and being mediocre.
And that relationship that you're building with that customer.
Solid.
And that
Lasts a
goes-
long
that-
time.
Right.
It'll lead all the way to a referral if you do it right.
Very similar to you with your products. Someone buys one book, you treat
Yeah,
them
they'll
well,
buy 'em all. Yeah,
buy the
they'll
whole-
buy 'em all.
Right. They'll buy it as I'm
Yeah.
living proof.
Cool.
Yeah. Power of listening. How important is it to be a good listener?
Well, I can give a whole seminar on it, but let me just briefly say, you either listen with the intent to understand, you listen with the intent to remember, or you listen with the intent to respond. Salespeople listen with the intent to respond, rather than listen with the intent to understand or remember. Not good. Remembering and understanding are the two key points, and there's a how, and there's a how-to, and it's very simple. You just take notes. When the person's talking and you're writing, it shows respect and it helps you remember. You'll never forget that their birthday is October 31st. You'll never forget that they need a certain part by a certain date. Whatever the circumstance is, you write it down, and that way you don't forget it. And the other person realizes that you're actually interested in doing this because of what you're doing. You're not yeah.
Genuine.
And then, yeah, exactly.
Right. You like to say, stop closing and provide value. Value first.
Well, just think about it this way. Think about yourself. You go to buy a car. You're going to spend 40 grand on a car. You want to be closed? Really? What you want to know is, how am I going to use the car? How's the car going to be serviced? And what might the car be worth if I go to sell it 3 years from now? Those are the main things that I want to understand about it. Not, we only have one on the lot. We got put a special deal on it now. It's only $1 over invoice. I swear to God. Yeah. So, and they've been doing that shit for 100 years. And that's why companies like Tesla, who have a buy now button in there, are going to win. Because people don't want to talk to that car sales guy. People go online and will do extensive research and walk into a car dealership now on a mission. They have a sheet of paper in their pocket about everything they want. And the car sales guy still doesn't get it. They still go up to him and go, what brings you in today? You looking for a new car today? Did you want to lease or buy today? Do you have a trade-in today? I'm like, here's my piece of paper. Give it to your daddy. If we can do it, cool. If we can't, I totally understand. I got to go.
In case in point of why you need to keep up with the times, right?
Totally. The old way of selling doesn't work anymore. I'm not going to find your pain. Your pain is none of my business. I am not going to try to manipulate you to some kind of close. I'm not going to do something that makes me look like a jackass from 1973. It worked in 73. It even worked in 83. Not working anymore. And it's never going to work again. You're either going to build a relationship with someone, you're going to have real rapport with someone, you're going to have dialogue with someone, you're going to find out why they want to buy, and if you can fulfill that need and they feel the value is there, they're going to buy. If they don't, they're not going to buy. If they like you and they believe you and they have confidence in you and they trust you, then they may buy from you. It depends on the perceived difference that they have in you and the perceived value that they have about what it is that you're conveying, whether it's a product or a service. So if I perceive the value and I perceive a difference and I like you and I believe you and I have confidence in you and I trust you, we have a shot. If I don't, out. And the likability is the main one. If I don't like you, I'm not coming near you. Just plain and simple. I'm just not. The guy's a jerk.
It's that chemistry. It's that
They
energy.
wouldn't. I refer to it as the salesperson refused to take yes for an answer. Because most of the people who go someplace to a destination to buy are there with money in their pocket. And if you piss them off enough, they'll go someplace else. Well, our policy, as soon as I hear that word, I'm out. I'm out. Oh, I'm sorry, I have a policy. I never do business with someone who says policy. That's my only policy.
You say the cold call is history.
Well, it is.
For the most part.
Yeah, people still do it, and people still, make sales as a result of it, but I don't think it's the best way to build a relationship. I think that it's a lot of fast talking, and I've defined it this way. A cold call is a lousy place to make a sale, but it's a great place to learn how to sell. So if you do it for a while and you bang your head up against the wall enough, eventually you're going to get to a decision maker, you're going to get to sit down with someone and talk to them, but there's smarter ways now. Social media has allowed people to search somebody out by a specific category or a job title. They are easier to find. They are, you can message them if you want to without a sales pitch. There's smart ways of doing it. Don't say we have 3 connections in common, please link with me. I'm totally fine about letting somebody cold call, but you're going to be turned down 98 times out of 100. There's a smarter way. If you go on LinkedIn or you go on any kind of social media, you can probably make a connection 2 or 3 times out of 10. It's a better deal.
And the fact of the matter is you're trying to get this face-to-face.
Yeah, I want to get face-to-face, but I can do it socially now. I don't have to call somebody up on the phone and, I'd like to speak to the decision maker, okay? Mr. Jones, yeah, can I please have 5 minutes of your time so I can come and bore the shit out of you with my slides? Not going to work.
Speaking of that, just the way you say that, I love how you have your characters in the book and you give these examples.
Oh, yeah.
I was always curious, what made you think of that concept?
Well, I wanted to make every book that I wrote fun to read, because reading is oftentimes for many people a chore, and salespeople don't like to read anyway. They want to just make a sale and make a commission. So I decided with the Red Book and the revision of the Sales Bible that I would put cartoons in there, and I hired Randy Glassbergen to be my cartoonist, who has unfortunately passed away over the course of the last couple of years, and so I can't do that anymore. So I'm relying on content, my own content, because I didn't feel that it was right to try to find another cartoonist. He was the business cartoonist, and no one has taken his place since. And
you were loyal to him.
Yeah, totally loyal. Yeah, and thousands of dollars. I mean, literally thousands and thousands of dollars. It was worth the investment because people wanted the cartoons.
But your books they seem very strategic. I followed that same model where you have your big quotes.
Yeah.
You have some pages, and then you have it's great because it breaks it up for a salesperson. It's
I
nice.
put the book on the wall so that I can see the content and the architecture, and I know where each page is, and I know how each page is designed because I'm a writer. I'm not an author.
What's the difference?
Writers write their own books. I'm not going to mention any other names, but there are many people that have writers. Not how I do it. I grew up in the 60s. I'm too much of an idealist to do it any other way. Authenticity is everything, I think.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, you can say anything you want about me, but you can't say I'm not authentic.
It's all you.
Yeah, totally. I'm Philly, and I'm authentic.
Love it. You talked about social media a little bit. How has it changed the game, not only for you, but for the world, in the sales world?
It allows anybody to say anything to anyone any time of the day or night. I think that's a fair statement. You can tweet to the world, you can Instagram to the world, you can LinkedIn to the world, and some of them will find it and link you back. And I think that there's an ability now for more people to write things and say things than when I started, for sure. You know, if you weren't in print, you got nothing. And if you weren't, you know, giving a speech somewhere, you got nothing. Now, you can have a podcast. You know, we're almost at 100,000 people a month downloading our podcast. Where'd that come from? And the answer is it came from having a reputation, having a brand, people following you, and that begins to build its own business. So there's much easier ways to communicate today. There's much easier ways to be found today and to create your own niche today. And that's what social media has done. It has allowed total freedom of communication to people from every corner of the world. It's pretty cool.
And if you're not doing it?
You're still cold calling. I don't know. I can't imagine not doing it. I can't imagine, well, that email, that's, you know, it's not going to work. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
And I'm older than most people now, and I tweet myself. I'm active in what I do because of my idealism, number one, but really because I think it's the right thing to do. I'm having a good time at it. If there's ever a day that I'm not having a good time, Roger, you'll find me in Paris.
I love it. You mentioned podcasting. This is something I took a liking to, and now love to. And frankly, I think it's a great sales tool, right? To be able to sit down with.
It's an amazing.
Consider you a mentor.
Yeah.
You know,
it's an amazing sales tool that works. Well, I mean, you brought the lights, you brought the cameras, so I'm totally cool with it. You're in our studio, actually. It looks like your studio. That's what happens in the world.
And that's that's the uniqueness I want to bring to it is, yes, we are here. We're in Charlotte. We're in your studio. I'm honored to be here. But at the same time, I'm sitting with someone who I looked up to, and I still do, for the last 10 years. That if this medium didn't exist, this would not have happened.
That's correct.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you
correct.
talk about
or can I come over for an hour and shoot the shit with you? I'm like,
right, no way. So what I hope others follow suit is think about your own podcast. You could do it. You don't have to do a podcast, but you do it because it's another medium. And there's going to be more mediums that we don't even know today.
Yeah. I will be able to help the launch of my books or Jennifer's books with the podcast. I will be able to attract more people into our podcast network. We're starting a network of business people who want to find my listeners and I want to find their listeners. So there'll be a sort of a blending of that whole piece, and we're looking to build a network of 1 million downloads.
Wow. And I may be interested in that.
We're going to start our own. We'll be at 100,000 next month. 100,000 people
incredible.
a month listening to our episodes. It's unreal.
And how long have you been doing it?
A year.
A year, right?
Yeah. Well, we've been doing it a little longer, but a year in earnest. And it's an enterprise now. It'll be its own business shortly. And fun.
A lot of fun.
Oh, total fun.
Yeah.
And you can say anything. You know, we're rated explicit or something. I don't know what the hell that means. But I'm from Philly. Swearing was kind of a way of life. And I don't look at it as, oh, I don't like that language. Like, that's the language I grew up with. My parents swore. Our teachers you know, you go to a ball game.
And that's the beauty of this alternative media. Is
It's
we can
it's real.
It's real.
Exactly.
That's why we're called American Real.
And if people don't like it, hit the off button.
That's right. Yeah. Branding. You're all about branding. You have a brand.
I wear my brand,
You
sell
wear
or die.
your brand. Sometimes you wear your shirt.
Yeah, I do. I
And
wear.
it's
I wear a
great. I
shirt,
mean,
yeah.
it gives branding's so important. But can you talk to that just for a
Well,
moment?
it's really misunderstood. I mean, Oreos has a brand. Cheerios has a brand. Chevrolet has a brand. I'm not that brand. I had to build my own brand based on value, based on content, and then based on name. And when you put out a book and it's got your name on it, you have a chance to build a brand. But hand me the red book for a second. This book is printed in China, the 51st state. I think we're trying to acquire them. I'm not really sure. I'm hoping we do. But this book, which is signed, what edition this is. First printing, July. This is a first edition. Oh no, second printing. This is the third printing of the book. But the book is now in its 25th printing. The minute I opened the box, I knew I had a brand. I started to cry because I knew I had a brand. And if you look at the rest of my brand, I followed the suit to a point where I became consistent. Branding is about consistency. Do you say the same kind of things? Does it look kind of the same? And someone, oh, it's got a string through it and it looks like this. It must be a Gitomer book. And literally, if you go to a Barnes & Noble and you look at all the books on the shelf, mine look kind of similar. Not alike, but similar. And that is what creates the brand for me. And I'm edgy, and that's part of the brand. And I'm funny, and that's part of the brand. So I have built a brand by consistency over a period of 25 years.
And I love the fabric material.
Yeah, the feel.
Where
Right,
did that
exactly.
come from?
It came from another book called Paris Out of Hand that a friend of mine gave to me 25 years ago as a Christmas present.
You liked it?
Exactly the same kind of book. Exactly the same kind of artwork. I said, someday I'm going to have a book like that. Well, when Ray Bard came to me and said, Harvey Pinnock wrote the Little Red Book of Golf, you should write the Little Red Book of Selling. And I sat there in Austin and I wrote out all the chapters on a napkin. I still have the napkin. And it was a winning idea. So I called the company, Chronicle Books, who published the book. I said, hey, where did you get that printed? Oh, we can't tell you because of the. In 5 minutes, I found out. I called the person back and was very explicit in my displeasure with them not sharing a source. That's a total bullshit. So let me tell you where I'm going to have mine printed because it's a better source than you have. And by the way, can I talk to your boss?
Good.
Yeah. I try to do the right, and I gave them my source, which is a better source than they had.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because when I started the podcast, I trained under a guy, Brian Rose, London Real. And I love the name, and I wanted to use the same brand. And he said, sure, go right ahead. I said, what is it going to cost me? He said, nothing. Just make me proud. But to your point, people seem to be so, stingy about giving their secrets and this and that.
No secrets.
And what I love, what you do is with all this content, you're basically giving people the ideas
No,
on
I give them
silver
a
platter.
dose and they want another dose.
Yeah.
That's part of the deal.
Let's talk about hockey.
Okay.
You love hockey.
Yeah, I like the Flyers. Well, I like hockey in general.
And you like hockey cards.
I have all kinds of cards. I don't collect them anymore, but I at one time did. Big fan of Jacques Plante because he created the goalie mask, the most obvious invention in the last 1,000 years. I collect Tim Horton because he died young, has his brand all over Canada still, Tim Hortons coffee, and his autograph is very expensive. But I'm a Philadelphia Flyers hockey fan because I had season tickets and went to the Stanley Cup final to see the Broad Street Bullies win in the 70s.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you go to the games here, AHL?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, I go to the Checkers here in Charlotte.
Yeah. Music.
Yeah.
I was at a conference one time. You brought up Roy Orbison.
Yeah,
You talked about how music could really help us get into our zone, right?
It gets into your zone. It brings up a memory. It's a very important part of life. It can resurrect an event from 50 years ago or 20 years ago in its entirety just by playing a song.
Has it helped you with your writing over the years?
No, when I write, I don't listen to anything. Some people have earbuds in and stuff like that. No, I'm
Totally
quiet.
focused.
Yeah, I'm quiet.
I saw you about 5 years ago at a conference in New York, and you said, "Hey, what are you up to?" I said, "Well, actually thinking about writing a novel." You said, He said, I've thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever, and I think at the time you said you had an idea for
Yeah,
something.
I have an idea for a novel. I haven't fleshed it out. It'll probably be in another 4 or 5 years that
I'd love to see you do it.
Yeah,
that would make me proud
Yeah.
if you do that.
I can tell you that the title is Kill the Sale.
Okay. I love it. Sales Manifesto, out in 2019. Can you give us a little glimpse?
Yes, it is a definitive sales book of answering 3 questions. What's now, what's new, and what's next?
Okay.
Because the face of selling has changed over the course of the last 100 years to a point where it is right now. It has to include social. It has to be non-manipulative. It has to be relationship-based. And you have to build a network of people that want to do business with you socially and then financially. So I think that if that's not explained, and that's what I do in the Sales Manifesto, I talk about not just what happened, but why you need to find a motive to buy rather than try to push somebody into your product, why it's more important for them. And I outline about 30 things that say it's no longer this, it's this. It's no longer satisfaction, it's loyalty.
Awesome.
You know, and there's tons of them.
Can't wait for it. When will that be out?
It'll be out January 1st.
Great.
Hold up book, but there's no book.
Have you thought about a succession plan?
Yeah, my succession plan is right here. It's Jennifer.
Awesome.
We have a family business. The business will continue. I have a body of work. If you look at Napoleon Hill or Dale Carnegie, they succeeded long after their life because of their content. So I've developed enough content for us to succeed for a long, long time.
Well, I'm honored that you spent time with us today.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. I do have one last question before
Sure.
I let you go, and that is, what do you want your legacy to be?
I'm building it. Everybody thinks that you don't get your legacy talked about until you're dead, when in fact, if I have 15 books that are to my credit right now, that's legacy. I have other things that are of importance that will go into that family thing through my partner, through my children, through my grandchildren, and I think that's the legacy that you leave. I want to be significant, so I'm working hard at it right now. I just want to be remembered as a good guy. You know, hey, Gitomer, hey, funny guy. Oh, yeah, real good sales guy. Did he write a book? Yeah, he wrote a bunch of books. It's not, I don't need a statue, but I do need millions of salespeople every year making more sales as a direct result of it. You know, think of How to Win Friends and Influence People. I don't think that people know it's a Dale Carnegie thing, rather they know it's a book they got to read. Even Think and Grow Rich, I don't know whether they think of it as a Napoleon Hill thing, but they certainly know Think and Grow Rich, and I want them to do the same thing with the Little Red Book or the Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude. If those things stick, then I've done my job.
Awesome. Jeffrey Gitomer, you're a motivation. This has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure, Roger.
And I can't wait to share your story.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning into American Real.
Be sure to visit our website, AmericanReal.tv, or search for us on iTunes or YouTube for past episodes. While you're there, please rate us or leave us a review. You can also connect with me directly on Instagram or Facebook, or by emailing roger@AmericanReal.tv. Now, if you're wanting to find your voice and share your story, join our live tribe and experience our 21-day live video challenge, where the first cycle is absolutely free. Go to AmericanReal.tv/live-tribe to register. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next show.